Hello and welcome. In this how-to video from Pony Express, we're going to demonstrate how you can use a Pwn Pro, or any one of our sensors for that matter, to create a proxied pivot point. Now this feature is one whereupon a remote sensor can be used as a pivot point or beachhead to allow for subsequent communication with web servers located in that remote network. So the use case would be that if you have a sensor deployed in a remote office space, and you have already configured the reverse shell functionality, and it doesn't matter as to which methodology is used for that reverse shell, whether it's SSL or standard or ICMP or DNS, it's irrelevant. But the idea is that if you have the reverse shell functionality enabled, what you can do through a command line entry is to leverage the sensor as a pivot point, so that you can then open up a browser on your SSH receiver and subsequently visit web servers in that remote office, as if you were physically sitting in that remote office space. Obviously, you are through the use of the Pony sensor. So, in this particular example, we've already gone through the process of creating and establishing our SSH, our standard SSH session. And there you can see on the screen my terminal window is reflecting port 3333, which is the standard SSH port used for reverse shell. In order to make this functionality work, instead of the normal connecting to an SSH at localhost, in this particular example, we're going to add a little lesser known switch. So I'm going to open up a new terminal window. And in this terminal window, I'm going to type, and this part will look familiar, SSH pony at localhost -p. Alright, so this is the part everyone's familiar with. This is what would allow you to establish your subsequent connection. But here what we're going to do is we're going to type a -ND 8080. Now 8080 is going to represent the proxy port that we will subsequently configure our browser to work through. So let me just review this line. SSH pony at localhost -p 3333-ND8080. Hit enter, and you're going to receive a prompt for your password. Pwn plug 8000. Hit enter, and that should be about it. Okay, so this is where it's going to sit. Now, in the past, this has generated a little bit of confusion. Persons enter their password. They're not quite sure as to what's transpiring. They see the cursor blink. Now, for those of you who'd be wondering in the background if, in fact, this is working, what you could use on that command line would be a -V or a -VV. And that would give you a greater detail, a debug level, if you will. And that would actually reflect the status of the shell going into a background state. Or I should say a non-interactive state. So with this now currently running, all I need to do is open up my browser on this system. Now I have a pretty fairly new configuration of a Kali Linux system, so I don't have anything here other than Iceweasel. And now what I'm going to do is go to Preferences and go to my network configuration settings. And now what I'm going to do is change the default from a system proxy setting. I'm going to go to Manual, and then here I'm going to enable a SOCKS proxy. Now the SOCKS proxy is going to be the localhost 127.0.0.1, or the loopback address. Port 8080. Well, not that port. Let's try that again. 8080. Great. Now this is a SOCKS 5 proxy, 127.0.0.1, 8080. Now it is important also, make sure you null out this line. Take out any entries that are in that line. Because we want to force everything to go to 127.0.0.1. We want to proxy all traffic to the loopback. Now that you've set this, click on OK, click on Close. And I always like to, personally, I always like to open up a new tab. I never like working with an already existing tab. And even in some cases, I'll actually close right out of the browser and reopen it just to be assured that that the connection is going to be new. All right. So at this point in time, what I want to do is enter the IP address of a system, a web server, in that remote office space. Now, I have already configured in my lab environment here a system running in that same network where the Pwn Pro sensor is located. and the system that's currently running in that network, well, is a Metasploitable 2 image. So here, if I use my browser and I type in http://192.168.2.131, which I believe is the IP address for the Metasploitable, hit enter, there it is. I'm now looking at the face page of Metasploitable 2. Now, to prove the fact that I am actually connecting not directly to the Metasploitable 2 image, but through the proxy pivot point, which is again a representative of my Pwn Pro sensor, what I'm going to do is open up a terminal window, and we'll do a quick little netstat, and we'll show all connections. NTP. There we go. All right. So there you can see the output of netstat. So looking at this, I can see in the first line the loopback address 8080. I can see another occurrence of that, and I can see a third occurrence of that. You will also note the SSH, the reverse SSH session from the Pwn Pro. In this case, it's the 192.168.2.128. That's actually a Pwn Pro. It's connecting to my Kali receiver. And obviously, you see some other reverse sessions through the 8080. So what you're looking at here is confirmation that my established session with the Metasploitable is not directly from the Kali receiver. It is, in fact, through the Pwn Pro sensor. And I can further prove that by closing out of this, opening up another term, and here what I'll do is I will connect up to the Pwn Pro itself through the reverse shell, sudo su, netstat. So now in this particular case, what I'm going to do is run netstat. Whoop. Not if I don't type that right. There we go. Netstat, NTP, enter. And now looking at the output from netstat while running on the Pwn Pro itself, I can see the IP address of my Metasploitable image is where? I don't see it. Let's refresh this page again. Let's refresh that page. There we go. Let's go back to my... And there we don't have it. Yes, there we do have it. All right, down the bottom line. Almost didn't see it there. Had to refresh the page and take a look at the netstat. There it is. So there is the 2.128. That's the IP address of the Pwn Pro sensor. And there's the 2.131. That's the IP address in port 80 associated with the Metasploitable image. So this, in fact, confirms, this clearly shows that the proxy pivot has been established from the Pwn Pro directly to a web server in that same network where the Pwn Pro resides. So this is a really good, very useful functionality when you want to be able to gain access to web servers or systems in a remote network, and you have a Pwn Pro by chance sitting in that environment. You now can actually leverage your Pwn Pro to establish a web server connection, albeit through the reverse shell functionality that the Pwn Pro provides. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email to support@ponyexpress.com.